in medicine in 2005. Then I joined Murtala Muhammad Specialist Hospital for my house job. After I completed my house job, I was posted to Plateau State for my National Youth Service. I serve at National Methodological Development Center as the medical officer of that prestigious institution. After completing my NYSC, I came back to Kano State and I joined Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital for my residency program, where I completed and I became a member of the West African College of Physicians and also a fellow, a consultant, a family physician. After that, after I completed, I moved back to Murtala Muhammad Specialist Hospital to serve the people of Kano State as a medical consultant family physician. It was in 2019, on the 5th of November 2019, that I was appointed by His Excellency, the former Governor of Kano State, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduzi, OFR, as Honorable Commissioner, Ministry for Higher Education. I served for almost 4 years, and we really had a very, very tremendous achievement at that institution. To start with few, actually we had to make a harmonization and strengthening relationship between the tertiary institutions and Kano State government, which made us not have any problem of strike. We also upgrade or establish a university of education in Kano State. Saadat Rimi is a non-college of education in Kano State. So we got approval by NUC to upgrade Saadat Rimi into a university considering the population of Kano State. Seeing moving Saadat Rimi to become a university, then we made some arrangements for conversion of some of our tertiary institutions so that they will be able to also produce NCE to fill in the gaps that we can get from converting Saadat Rimi into a university. We constituted a visitation panels to all the tertiary institutions for us to look and see where we have problems for us to uplift the educational standard of our institutions in Kano State. We also constituted governing councils for all the institutions for them to monitor the progress of our institutions for us to make education better in the state and beyond. We also established teaching hospital. Muhammad Abdullahi was a teaching hospital for our students that are reading medicine in Yusuf Maitamasile University. In the terms of scholarship, we also did tremendously. We went around, we made sure students that were taking some foreign and then also internal scholarships were cleared. We also renewed our memorandum of agreement between France and Kano State government. So, Your Excellencies, this is something about Maria and her history, and if given or been confirmed, Your Excellency, my values and aspirations would be in line with His Excellency's dream for us to have a better tomorrow and a better nation by God Christ. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. The dismissed Deputy Senate President. This is almost your nominee.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The nominee before us, first of all, let me thank Mr. President for bringing her forward for confirmation, because she's one of the best we have in Kano. She is one of the best we have in Kano. Mr. President and colleagues, the nominee we are seeing comes from, quote unquote, the conservative north. But yet, she was able to go to school. Not only went to school, but went ahead to read medicine. And now she's a fellow in the medical profession, a first-class consultant. But yet, she upholds our tradition that allows for respect, that allow for decorum in the way men and women behave. And she did not stop only at the medical profession, her point of, her profession, but as well, she's a very, very good administrator, because she veered off and became an administrator, a commissioner of higher education. She has done very well. She has done very well. You could see from the way she started to introduce herself, without reading anything, on her own, Mr. President.
Yes, please. He wanted her to start with her children. She started on her own, but I thought she started with her voice. And so, but conclude on her and then advise the Senate.
Mr. President, we are proud of her. She's an epitome of our tradition and culture, and yet very, very educated and hardworking. Thank you, my Mr. President, this is the kind of way we want our children to be. I want my daughter to be like her. Mr. President, I want your daughter to be like her. Mr. President, well, by virtue of my profession, my position here, I would have said she should just bow and go, but I would not do that because of my position. But I know I know if my junior brother comes up to speak, he will say so. Mr. President, I don't need to speak any longer about this. She has spoken for herself. She's first class. And his CV is there. It has spoken everything about her to all of us. Mr. President, let's just allow her to make some comment and then she'll take her leave. Mr. President, I so submit.
Distinguished Senator Hanga. We invite the distinguished Senator Ismail Akau.
Mr. Chairman, my dear fellow distinguished colleague, I am Suleiman Abraham Kau from Kano South Senatorial District, Kano, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, I don't want to talk much, but last week, when we are emphasizing, we, the people of Kano State, of withdrawal of one of our daughter, suddenly, from your announcement, we just heard the name of Dr. Maria from Bunkure, Kano South. We became excited and commend Mr. President of doing so, not because she appointed her as described by DSP, but she is the first card-carrying minister from 1999 to date from marginalized Kano South Senatorial District. Therefore, Mr. President, I must openly commend Mr. President of appointing her or appointing one of us. Not one of us alone, one of our best, who demonstrated her capacity during her tenure as commissioner from 1999 to 2003. Although she is a professional, as described by my big brother DSP, but one good part of her, she is connected with grassroots. She's connected with grassroots because she was born in Bunkure, primary school in Bunkure. Her 2 secondary school, Arabic secondary school, Tudunwada, and the Garko Science Secondary School are all from Kano South Senatorial District. It demonstrates how connected she is with grassroots. Although she is APC during the election, I am NNPP, but I am highly delighted and commended this appointment. When I start viewing her CB, the preamble of her CB, which all of us from Kano, not from Kano South alone, can testify that she is a very diligent family, a married woman, public health physician, erudite educationist, highly organized, and efficient professionals who demonstrated her ability, her capacity, who achieved a lot within a short period of time. Thank you, this Senate. I am certain that my dear uncommon transformer, the chairman of Correctional Senate, will allow the nominee to take her lead. I am more particular and special when I read about her school. By the grace of God, my daughter too is qualified medical doctor. I know how she go through on achieving her dream. She school in a public school, rural school, but see how he addressed the Senate today. Thank you, Dr. Maria. Thank you, the good people of Bunkure local government. Thank you, the good people of Kano South Senatorial District, the marginalized senatorial district in Nigeria. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Kawu, I think the only point of disagreement is the word marginalized. Because if they were marginalized, she would not be here. Yes, I agree with you. You have commended the president, and the president has done well. But you politicians from Kano must not continue the marginalization of our community. Because you have seen that it is not the federal government that is marginalizing our community. It is you, Ismail Akawo, and your other colleagues, politicians in Kano. It's Barrow has supported her, and so and is happy. So, DSP, you can come under any point of order to correct the marginalization you have been doing since.
Mr. President, Order 52.4. A senator must confine his observations to the subjects under discussion and may not introduce matter irrelevant thereto. My junior brother, Senator Abdurrahman Kawu Sumaila, veered off from what we are doing here by going into something, into a narrative that is not correct. Mr. President, I want to tell you, you know Senator Kabir Gaya. He was a governor. Well, Rimi first. Rimi was a governor of Kano State. He came from Kano South. Kabir Gaya, his cousin. Kabir Gaya was a governor of Kano State. He was from Kano South. So, why do you now say Kano South? Do I need to say more? No. How now do you say Kano South is marginalized? You have produced 2 governors, whereas my zone, Kano North, only produced governor once, Ganduji, but they produced 2 governors. How can you say? How can you now say you're marginalized? You produced governors 2 times. 2 times, Mr. President. Mr. President, Kano South, the famous Nigerian Police Academy is located in Kano South. They have a university of technology owned by Kano State, is in Kano South. Nigerian Law School, Kano South, Nigerian Law School. And now you have Bunkuri. You have Maria Bunkuri from Kano South. How do you now say you are marginalized? You are not marginalized. Mr. President, so submit.
The very respected Deputy Senate President, thank you for the elucidation and education. Honestly, from what you are saying, it's out of tune for us to ask Ismail Akawo to apologize, but he doesn't need to, because all we need to do is to go by our rules. So your point of order is sustained. Distinguished Senator Isunaso.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Osita Isunaso. I want to, first of all, commend Mr. President for the appointment of the nominee, and also to endorse what the Deputy Senate President have said in relation to the character and personality of the nominee. But we must ask you some basic questions. That is why you are standing before us. Mr. President, sitting as chair, you will agree with me that COVID-19 took Nigeria and other nations of the world unawares. But Nigeria did extremely very well in managing COVID-19 under the chairmanship of the then SGF, Boss Mustafa. Nigeria was highly commended about the way we managed COVID-19. But we learned from them that we didn't even have the necessary Medicare to approach such pandemic, assuming that it comes again. Then my question will be, as somebody who is well experienced in the medical sector, what would be your advice to the Federal Executive Council in terms of preparedness against a future pandemic like COVID-19? Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Mongono.
Distinguished Senate President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Mongono. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. My question, well, first and foremost, I commend Mr. President for nominating you as a ministerial nominee, and it is my hope and prayer that eventually this Senate will confirm your nomination. My question is with regard to the issue of qualification to be a medical doctor, particularly with regard to foreign trained students. Of recent, the avalanche of complaints from all the nooks and crannies of the country, particularly our sons and daughters that have gone outside the country to train as a medical doctor. By the time they come back home, they are subjected to a particular examination. And that examination, the failure rate is about 80%. The failure rate is about 80%. As a medical doctor, in your opinion, what does it, why is it that there is such a massive rate of failure? And how do we ameliorate that situation? Is it by stopping those that are desirous of getting medical education outside the country to concentrate? And then the problem is that our medical schools do not have the requisite capacity to admit all our young men and women that are desirous of being a medical doctor, and that is what is driving them to go outside to seek medical education. But by the time they come, it is very difficult for them to pass that examination. And I know some that are now up to 10 years, every year they will write, they will not qualify. And then the fees that you are supposed to pay for you to qualify for that examination is very, very exorbitant. is in the range of 500,000 to 1 million. So somebody from a poor background cannot afford to pay for that examination fee. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Tony Way.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Dr. Tony Moye. I represent the people of Anambra Central District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, first of all, let me thank Mr. President, irrespective of political party affiliation, by appointing this lady. I never knew this lady from Adams. I'm not from Kano State. I'm not also of APC political party as of present, although I was before. But I'm very impressed by this appointment. Why I'm very impressed about this appointment is because this appointment shows there is dignity in labor. This appointment shows reward for somebody who has worked so hard. What impressed me most with this resume of this lady is that this is a lady who could not even get a credit in English language as of the time she sat for SSC. But being that she was determined to succeed, she went to School of Basic Studies in Kano, did IJMB, so as to qualify her to proceed further. At age of 40 years, this lady became a fellow of West African College of Physicians at age of 40. It's very rare in Nigeria for a lady to aspire, and at the end of the day, she succeeded in becoming a fellow of West African College of Physicians at age of 40. This is a rare feat this lady has done. In addition, she went to read Masters in Public Health. Despite that she's a consultant already, she's today a holder of Master in Public Health. So I'm very impressed by her appointment. But I have one question to ask. My dear nominee, my colleague, if by God's grace this Senate confirms you are a member of Federal Executive Council, irrespective of the portfolio you'll be assigned to, what are you going to do? What steps are you going to do to boost immunization policy in Nigeria, especially northern Nigeria? Because expanded program on immunization was launched in Nigeria in 1979. Immunization, especially children below the age of 12 years. But today in Nigeria, where you have the least level of vaccination as it concerns immunization is northern Nigeria. Very sad. That's why I see a lot of diseases, especially the children suffer, the diphtheria and others, prevalent in northern Nigeria. So my question is this: if you are confirmed and a member of this cabinet, what are you going to do to help to bring the immunization program? That program was launched in 1979. So northern Nigeria can come at least near par to what is obtainable in other geopolitical zones in Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity. God bless you.
The distinguished Senator Omai.
Your Excellency, the Senate President sitting as Chair of the Whole. Your Excellency, thank you for the opportunity. Let me commend very highly the nominee for a very beautiful presentation of her resume, and to congratulate you very highly for your journey in life so far. I'm very proud of what I have seen here. Your Excellency, let me also commend this Senate. You know, sometimes when the public wants to criticize the Senate over this beautiful job we are doing, they do it out of context. And I am sure that they don't care to listen to the resume as being read out by the nominees before us. So let me commend you and commend the Senate for a very beautiful job we're doing. I've looked through your resume, and it is a state of joy and something to thank Mr. President very highly. Some people came here and say for the first time they have been nominated as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria from their senatorial zone. So Mr. President has this gift of not only fishing out for the best, but doing everything possible for balancing.
I am very concerned, Mr. Senate President, about a particular, program in the health sector. And this program is a situation that the Medical Association has allowed, where you will be a medical doctor in public institution, and you also have your own private clinic. There is a competing interest here, Mr. President. And I tell you, I have a very bad experience of this. My father, may his soul rest in peace, had a surgery in teaching hospital in Enugu sometime, and he was seen by a very good surgeon, did wonderful work, and he was made alive. When the same problem came out again, and he went back to the same hospital, the consultant told him to rather come to his own clinic. And being satisfied with the works of that consultant, he went to his own clinic. And the consultant did a beautiful job, and then, of course, put an infusion and left home. In the night, there was a reverse, blood was rather coming into the infusion rather than the water going into the body. And there was nobody to attend to him. The nurse had slept off. These private clinics, most of the time, they have very slim number of workers. And so you find out that it's a very competing, interest. My question is there any way we can take a second look? When I was governor, I made it very clear that if you are going to work in a hospital, please, you will not have a private clinic. And so we have to do a balancing. If you are going to work in the public institutions, and the public health, you have to find a way not to have a private clinic. This is very important, because most of the time, as we are saying, the salaries of health workers should be increased. The problem is not even the salary. It is patriotism. When this is done, can you now give us all the attention as far as public health institutions are concerned? Second one is to appeal to you. We have one vital institution in our medical university in my state. When I was there, I built dialyzer factory. And the dialyzer factory is the only factory that produces dialyzer in the whole of Africa. And I was smart to also obtain a patent in the name of Ebonyi State government. My question is it possible to give attention to this factory so that we can replicate it even in the 6 geopolitical zones and be able to export this very important aspect of kidney care to West African countries and the other African countries? Thank you, Mr.
Distinguished Senator Omai, she's going to answer your question. But the 2 things you didn't mention. Did your father survive?
Oh. No, my father died because of the negligence of that private hospital. So I'm an orphan, Mr. So you have to find a way. You have to find a way to treat me better as Senate President.
May his soul rest in peace. May his soul rest in perfect peace. I'll father you. Let me listen to distinguished Senator Anga. You have a nominee from Kano in front of you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Rufai Hanga, representing Kano Central. I just went out to take my injection in your office, sir. But I believe your deputy, sir, and my colleague here must have spoken on my behalf. So I think I stand by whatever they said. Thank you very much, sir.
The nominee in totality. Thank you.
I support the nominee, sir. Thank you very much.
The last question.
Thank you, the President of the Senate and my dear colleagues. My name is Darlington Nwokocha. I represent the entire Nigeria, but Abia Central in particular. Madam Nominee, I'm impressed with your resume, but I want to veer a little bit into another area, that's education. Because I can see in your page 5 of your resume, your CV, you say some accolades and achievement as a public servant. And I can see that out of the 10 items, the accolades attracted, all of them are hinged solely on education matters. I have a concern, which so many people and so many quarters have expressed as well. And that concern is the way history as a subject in Nigeria is going completely dead. And I know history as a subject touches every aspect of our existence, both medical, social, economic. Because if we do not have a memory bank of what happened yesterday, it will be very difficult for us to calculate and measure what will happen today and tomorrow. And I know in our secondary school and primary schools, those days, history was very key. It was almost like a compulsory subject, which guided our performance and our expectations and the way we related and worked within our society. If at all that you are appointed as Commissioner Education, or Minister, or in any way you are part of the Executive Council, will you raise your voice? Now we are working very hard trying to recreate the Nigerian visibility in the tourism. Will you lend your voice to say so strongly that history as a subject should be made as a compulsory course or subject from our primary school to the secondary and tertiary? Because that will help us. For instance, today, we can have our Naira, see all the prominent men shown in the currency our children are carrying. But if you ask them, how did this person manage? What did they do to feature in these notes? They do not have the history. They don't know anything about it. So I think for us to strengthen our economy, we need history to guide our pathway. Will you, in any way, lend your voice to making sure that history will be a compulsory subject in Nigeria's system? Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished colleagues. Dr. Bunkure, the floor is yours, but just add only one question. I think outside this country, one of the things they do is continuous refresher courses for medical doctors, which is a way of training and retraining to bring them up to date with current realities. For instance, we are talking about artificial intelligence. We are almost passing the period of robotic surgeries and all that. So I don't know if you are given the opportunity, either in the medical area or in the educational area. Educationally, you should. Would you like to introduce training and retraining of teachers in the medical profession? Will you undertake consistent and quarterly refresher courses for medical doctors so that you bring them up to date with the current practices long after they had left medical colleges? Answer those questions as you can.
Thank you very much for the questions. I will start with the issue of COVID-19. COVID-19 is one of the most tragic experience we had all over the world. It started in 2019, December, and we thought the world has come to an end. But with the effort that was made in Nigeria and the strong task force that was headed by SGF of that time, was Mustafa, Nigeria has really done wonderfully well. We're talking about preparedness. Sometimes you learn from experience. And this is one of the reasons that we need to prepare. We are not praying for any one of all these emergencies, but this is something that is very crucial from the experience we had in the past. And then the legislature has a very significant role to play. And also the issue of funding that should be set aside to take care of such things if it happens. But we are not praying to have anyone, by God's grace. And it's not only COVID-19. Like now we have a diphtheria, which at least it's not so open because of the preparation we had during the COVID-19. That made us to take care of the issue of diphtheria that is not people are not even aware that we have such issues on ground. And this is because of how fully we managed the issue of COVID-19 with a very successful outcome, and it has now become a history. The second question is on the issue of qualification and the foreign students that read MBBS. Distinguished senators, we're talking about MBBS, we're talking about human lives. This is something that we have to be very serious about it. So that's why the exams are really sometimes so tough, and then there are so many differences. Some might read their medicine in China, some might read it in India, some might go to United States, and these are areas that we have different incidence and prevalence of some infectious diseases and other diseases, communicable or non-communicable. You might go to China, you will never see a case of malaria in there. So to manage it is totally different from what you have in Nigeria. For that, sometimes our children that goes to read abroad, they have problems with seeing cases, several cases that they did not manage there. So when they come to write the exams by Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, then they now have difficulties. And then this is the reason why we're talking about the issue of internship. Like some of the foreign schools, they usually give time for our students to come back to their original countries so that they get used to the cases and then move back to write their exam. Definitely with this, the rate of passing exams will go higher. And also the training. There are schools that gives all this training and mock exams before writing the real MDCN examination. And I know from Kano, there was a time we took over 102 female students to read medicine in Sudan. And when we brought them back, they wrote that exam. And over 70% of them, they passed the exam because we have some similarities between Sudan and Kano. Some cases, they've managed, they've seen them there, so they are not new to them in Nigeria. So this is few of the factors. So what we need to do is to have this collaboration that some schools might be sending their students back home for the internship and also some courses. And even their exposure to the patient, the way they will be given patients to manage here, they might not have that opportunity to do it outside their countries. So these are some of the reasons, and we have to look into it and see how we manage it better. So the issue about boosting immunization policy, we're talking about policy. We have to look at where we are. Then we look at our strength in whatever policy we have. What are our strengths? Where do we have weaknesses? What are the opportunities we have on ground that will help us to boost that policy? And also, what are the threats or the challenges that we need to overcome? So with this SWOT, definitely we'll look and see where we have problems, where we need to do better, and then we'll boost immunization policy in Nigeria. The issue of private and public work, actually, MDCN is really frowning at, in fact, it's illegal. Whenever you want to have a private hospital, you must work outside the working hours. You shouldn't be at a private hospital while you're supposed to be in the public hospital. As he said, this is not really what is, where MDCN is frowning at it because it's affecting the quality of care we give to our patients. And then definitely, It's something that we have to look into and see what are the things we'll bring out of it to strengthen the policy on this issue. Then the issue of a factory that produces dialyzers. Your Excellencies, one of the leading causes of death and the most expensive illness is end-stage renal disease. And this is where dialyzers come. There are some that do well with transplant, which is the end management. But for some that cannot get a donor, they have to be on dialysis. So to strengthen these factories or to produce more, maybe in the next zonally, maybe we have some, because like Distinguished was talking, he was talking about the personal factory that belongs to him. So the government should have such factories, at least at every zone of the nation, that will significantly reduce the burden on the patient and also reduce the mortality rate from end-stage renal disease. Distinguished Senators, the issue of history.
Distinguished nominee, our sister, our doctor, our educationist, thank you for the other question about whether you support the reintroduction of history, into our curriculum. Just that.
Sir, it was highlighted by the distinguished senator. History is very, very important course. But for us to say we want to make it a mandatory, definitely there must be a committee. We have to look in total. We have to look at the advantages and disadvantages. If the advantages or the benefits outweigh the risks, then we decide as to whether we make it compulsory or we leave it as the way it is. Because so many schools are now reading history. And it depends on what even a student, we even need a career guidance and counseling. It depends on what a child wants to read when he grows up. Some might need history, some might not need history. So when you make it compulsory, definitely some, they might not need it, depending on what they are reading. If it's compulsory, somebody that is reading medicine, I might not need to go to history, unless if I want to make it a kind of a leisure thing. So we have to look in total. We cannot say it's good to make it compulsory. There must be a committee that will look into it and see the benefits. If it outweighs the risks, then we make it to be compulsory, sir.
So you align yourself with the policy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on teamship, because you just mentioned here that the question of whether history should be compulsory in our schools or not should depend on the collective decision of Nigerians. In other words, you want to suggest that a committee in the Federal Executive Council should be set up, and if you are lucky to be a member, you contribute your quota, and then when they will come out with recommendations after they've looked at the advantages and disadvantages, and thereafter they will recommend to the President and the federal government on that. I think with that, you have satisfied this Senate, and you have been able to acquit yourself credibly, and we have every right to be proud of women gender. You can now step forward and take leave of the Senate, and you'll hear from us. Yes, the next nominee. Sergeant at Arms, the next nominee. Distinguished colleagues, the last nominee on the list today is a distinguished son of the Niger Delta and a senior advocate of Nigeria, an advocate for justice, and a man who believes in excellence. My dear brother, SN Festus Keyamo, your CV is already with us, and most of us know you. So if there are things you would like to add that are not here, you use the next few minutes to say so. Otherwise, just summarize your life in 1 or 2 minutes so that you can answer questions from the distinguished senators. You are welcome.
Thank you, sir. The President of the Senate, here seated as chair of the Committee of the whole Senate, His Excellency, Distinguished Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio, Commander of the Order of the Niger, and once my boss, always my boss, at the Ministry of the Niger Delta Affairs. So, sir, my boss, I also present myself to you today to hear your testimonial about me as your mentee in the Ministry of the Niger Delta Affairs, where you have a boss. We enjoyed a convivial relationship when we were both at the Ministry of the Niger Delta Affairs. The Deputy Senate President, all the principal officers of this most revered Senate, and in particular, I pay special recognition to my 3 senators from Delta states. Distinguished Senator Edet Dafinone, Distinguished Senator Joel Onowakpo Thomas, and Distinguished Senator Ned Nwoko, who are very, very personal friends to me for so many years, sir. My name is Festus Egwarewa Adeniyi Keyamo. Paternally, I'm from Delta State, in particular, Uwie local government area of Delta State. And maternally, I'm from Ogun State, in particular, Yewa South local government of Ogun State, Ilaro. And I'm also a constituent of Distinguished Senator Solomon Adeola Olamilekon, who is popularly known as Yayi. He's my senator from Ogun West. In fact, he knows I'm from the royal home there. My mom, where they call Oju Orono in Ilaro. And we enjoy a very, very convivial relationship. I also see so many senators here who are my mentors, my political leaders, who have personal friends over the years, comrades too. I see 3, 4, 5 comrades here who we have enjoyed very excellent relations over the years. I greet all of you, sir. My appearance here today, sir, can only be by the grace of God, sir, and by the special benevolence, and I repeat, special benevolence of our President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I want to say a special thank you to him for giving me this rare opportunity to serve. In fact, why I say I give all the glory and adoration to God is that on Friday when my name was announced on this floor, I was already packed, my bags and baggages were already packed with my dad, with my family. We're going on a short vacation. I had given up any hope to be here when all of a sudden they said my name had been announced from Lagos. So I started rushing back and we had to cancel all our trips to go on vacation. So I give God all the glory and all the adoration, sir. Briefly, sir, I am a member of the INABA, sir. I'm a senior advocate of Nigeria. I practiced law for about 30 years, sir. And I'm also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitration in the United Kingdom. And so I also practice international arbitration, sir. I was called to the Nigerian bar about 30 years ago, sir. And over this period, sir, I have used the instrumentality of the law in many situations to advance the cause of democracy, sir, and the respect for the rule of law. That has been the story of my life. In fact, coincidentally, sir, when our present president was in exile, fighting for the return of democracy in Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we were the young lawyers in Nigeria here who were empaneled by my late boss then, the late Chief Ganifayemi, who were coordinating the release of NADECO leaders who were detained across the country at that time. Many of them. So that was the role we were playing while our president was abroad at that time on the platform of NADECO, also fighting for the return of democracy to Nigeria. So coincidentally, our paths crossed again when I joined the Action Congress of Nigeria in Delta State, just at the cusp of forming the All Progressives Congress at that time. And of course, we were the foundation members of the APC from the ACN in Delta State, sir. Sir, my struggle and battle for the respect for the rule of law also led me at some point, sir, to fight for the rights of the Senate. And I'm sure you all know that, sir, that over the years, I felt that because we had left military rule, that it was important for the military to subject itself to this democratic institution. This is a star democratic institution that we have. When the military take over power, they suspend their first port of call is in parliament, they suspend parliament. So because this is the bastion of democracy. So I felt that if I looked at all the provisions of the law, and I felt the military had to bow to this Senate, had to subject itself to the authority of the Senate. And so on my own, I wrote then to the Senate President, Senator David Mark, I wrote to the then Attorney General Andwaka, I wrote to all of them that, look, this procedure is not right. The military must come here for confirmation before they assume, their duties, the service chiefs. So I went to court on my own volition. And I won the case for this Senate, for the National Assembly, to have a voice in the confirmation of service chiefs. And that's the powers you are enjoying today. And that is the case of Keyamo against the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which I won, and that was how I fought for the powers of this Senate. I've also served as a private prosecutor for the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission for so many years, before I was appointed a minister in 2019. And in that role, I served the country in prosecuting, economic and financial crimes, politically exposed persons. And also, as a private lawyer, I represented clients across the country, both the rich and the poor. I represented so many of them. In the course of that, I won so many of the cases. I lost so many of the cases, like all lawyers do. And of course, many of them are still pending in court. This passion for the promotion of rule of law and human rights led me to receive the global award called the Global Human Rights Award by the United States Global Leadership Council in Washington in 2017. I was conferred with this global award. And in 2019, sir, I appeared before this same revered Senate. I appeared here as a ministerial nominee, and magnanimously, sir, magnanimously, you confirmed my nomination at that time as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I was first at the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, where I served with my boss here, Senator Gospel Pabio, and later I was also at the Ministry of Labor and Employment, where I was oversighted by one of the best senators I've ever met in my life, my friend, Senator Godiya Akwashike. Luckily, he's back here today, and he was my chairman of my committee at that time, and we enjoyed very excellent relationship. There were one or two initial disagreements with them, but later, Senator Akwashike and a number of the members became my very, very personal friends. In fact, we were so close that he joked at a point that he would like to oversight me anywhere I am again, because of the closeness that we enjoy. And thank God he's here today, seated. One of my best allies, best senators I've worked with, Senator Godiya Akwashike. So I respectfully present myself, sir, respectfully, for screening and magnanimous confirmation as a senator or as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
I want to recognize the use of the word magnanimous confirmation after the screening. So, the TVC Advocate of Nigeria, your brief resume is known to all, and the few cases you have cited also show your sagacity in the legal profession. The civil senator is Jibril.
Your Excellency, this.
No. When once a point of order is raised, the presiding officer must listen to the point of order. Order what?
My order is anchored on Section 88 of the Constitution, 1999, as amended. Can I take the leave of Mr. President to read out, sir? Thank you, Mr. President of the Senate. My name is Darlington Nwokocha. I speak for the entire Nigeria, but Abia Central in particular. Mr. President, I want to read Section 88, 1, A and B, but I will anchor my position on B. Let me start from 1. Subject to the provision of this Constitution, each House of the National Assembly shall have power by a resolution published in its journal or in the official gazette of the government of the Federation to direct or cause to be directed investigation into any matter or thing with respect to which it has power to make laws. B, the conduct of the affairs of any person, authority, ministry, or government department charged, or intended to be charged with the duty of or responsibility for executing or administering laws enacted by National Assembly and disbursing or administering monies appropriated to be appropriated by the National Assembly. Mr. President of the Senate, I'm aware that this National Assembly and this arm, the Senate, has 3 major mandates. 1, lawmaking. Secondly, oversight. And thirdly, representation. And I know quite well that what we are doing today is a continuation of what we did yesterday. And I'm happy to have the nominee here, present, and he has said wonderful things, and which of them he said that he used instrumentality of law, which he is part and parcel of, to advance the cause of justice. And I know quite well as well that this House, or this Senate, usually uses the instrumentality of legislature to advance the cause of fairness. Mr. President of the Senate, I want to bring to the notice, because I've been a 2-time House of Assembly member, 2-time House of Rep member, and today a senator. And I was in the 8th Assembly of the House of Representatives, and the 9th Assembly, and today I am here. And I know that our rule book does not in any way exclude the continuation of free will drive of one section to the other. Having said that, Mr. Senate President, I want to bring to the notice of this House that sometime in 2020, that an issue came up. And that issue was the Public Works Program. We all welcomed it with open hands because this is something that will help our people. Today we are talking about paying 8,000 to some people to make sure that it will alleviate poverty. Then it was the amount of 20,000 to 1,000 persons across the 774 local governments, which my local government is part of it. And I'm sure your local government is part of it. And today, 1,000 per each local government, minimum, 20,000 naira, has a great multiplier effect that will make our people cushion so many effects that would have led our people into a very greater height. But what really happened? At a point, we wanted to carry out our responsibility, because if some people can use the instrumentality of law, which they find themselves within their confines of their own authority, to advance for all their justices, why can't we use the instrumentality of the legislature to support our people and help the populace, which we represent? Then, at that point, we invited the nominee, because this thing has been a subject of controversy and public debate, which I don't know. We wanted to know and give him fair hearing. Please tell us, because it's now within our own confines authority to know what happened to our constituents. So please come and tell us what really happened. What is the structure? What are the indices you are using to carry out these things? Because our people will hold us responsible and accountable. And when he was invited, what we are talking about is a 52 billion naira appropriation, and the right of appropriation resides on the legislature. That is our right. And I know quite well that the right of oversight resides on us, because we have to hold you accountable for whatever thing we appropriate to you. It is our right. And when he was invited, he expressly told us, to the public, that we want to hijack his role, that we want to blackmail us, that we are corrupt, that we want to hijack his role. And I know that he midwifed the process. Nobody's against that. He midwifed the process, and this falls within his own area of operation as the junior minister for labor and employment. Highly welcome. And not only that, he went as far as in the public line to say that when he was asked, which indices did you use to gain this? He said, in quote, "They are not from the moon." That was too arrogant to answer Nigerians that way, because we're talking about what we support and help our people. That is why we are here. Anything outside that, I'll walk away from this chamber. My interest, your interest, and the interest of everybody is our people. That is why we are here. Not whatever thing any person is saying. And today, we need to find out, Mr. Senate President. Nobody is stopping him from being cleared. No. And I'm happy the way the president has sent so many people, great people here. We have questioned them, passed through the screening, wonderful people, and we're ready. As much as they are ready to work with the system, we are ready to clear them. But not on the grounds of putting something on the table, not granting some people fair hearing, because I would like us to grant him fair hearing, since he has been running away from it, for people, for Nigerians to know what really happened. Because I wouldn't like any person to be holding that, because this thing has been subject of debate here and there. What happened to the 52 billion? What happened to the... But he is here, and it's our responsibility to find out. So, Mr. President of the Senate, I'm of the opinion, so strongly, that he has to tell us what really happened, but not here. We have to keep it down a little bit. We're not saying that we're not going to clear him. This is a house that can reconvert at any point. You can even call for an emergency and we'll reconvert. Because we would not like what happened at the last administration, where some people felt that the president was in charge, and so many other things were happening out there. We won't take it this time around. We want a situation, we hold you responsible from the onset. Since Mr. President has started showing us the right hand, we must follow along that side to make sure that we work with him in that right hand as well. Therefore, Mr. President of the Senate, I'm of the opinion that we hold this down a little bit, and I move a motion that we suspend forthwith this nomination and wait until when this his leg so that he can freely walk in our environment and tell Nigerians, I have perfectly done well because this record has been put straight. That is my submission, Mr. Senate President. I rest my case.
Distinguished colleagues, the point of order raised by Senator Darlington Ugocha is noted. But on the motion, there is no seconder. Okay, but let's find out first. Senator, there's a motion on the ground. If you want, you can second it and amend it, whatever. So if there is no seconder, Leader of the Senate, the point of order had been noted. Now he also proceeded to move a motion, which has not been seconded. So, okay, Senator Abaribe, let me hear you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion, very ably moved by Senator Darlington Ugocha, that in view of Section 88B of the 1B of the Constitution, which mandates the National Assembly to go ahead and look into the conduct of affairs of any person, authority, or ministry. And where such a person refuses and deliberately stays away from letting the National Assembly do its work, and in view of the fact that this nominee rejected the summons of both the House of Representatives and the Senate, that I do support that this nominee should be stepped down pending when he decides that the National Assembly has that right to inquire into the workings of a minister and his ministry. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded. Those who are in support of the motion that the screening of the nominee be stepped down until further inquiries, say aye. Aye. Those who are against, say nay. Distinguished colleagues, don't worry. Distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, speak from there, please. Distinguished colleagues, I will put the question again.
Give him the chance to talk. We're supposed to be fair. Give him the chance to talk.
Distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, point of order. Mr. President, point of order. Mr. President, point of order. Somebody is sorting us here in the room. We have not done anything. We have not done anything. Distinguished colleagues, distinguished colleagues, I will put the question again.
Order, please. Distinguished senators, sit down, please. You can only be. Order, please. Distinguished senator, take your seats, please.
Distinguished colleagues, Distinguished colleagues, the President of the Senate, sit down. The President of the Senate is on his feet. Refer to Order 62 of our rules, and I'll read for those who may not have gone through. Whenever the President of the Senate or the chairman rises during a debate, any senator then speaking or offering to speak shall immediately sit down, and the Senate or the committee shall be silent so that the President of the Senate or the chairman may be heard without any interruption. I am of the view that we are not the people that nominated the nominees that we have been screening from the president. A lot of indices must have been taken into consideration. Under a rowdy situation, we cannot arrive at anything. But I've noticed that from the, even here, some of you are prepared to stretch the rule to even asking for division. But we will not go that route. Leader of the Senate, lead us right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, and very, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, may I at this time move that we dissolve into an executive session to be able to iron out some issues. Before that, I guess my first motion should have been based on Order 8 sub 3 of our rules to move for an extension of time for this Senate to be able to sit beyond 2 p.m. This should have happened some 13 minutes ago, but for what was going on. So, sir, please take it that my first motion right now is a motion for extension of time based on Order 8 sub 3 of our rules to enable us clear the other items on the order paper. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion that will extend our sitting time to beyond 2 o'clock to enable us continue today's proceeding. I so second. And no, he will. And okay.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion due late has been moved and seconded by the minority leader that this August Assembly do extend its sitting time beyond 2 p.m. Those who are in support of that motion say aye. Aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Our sitting period is extended beyond 2 p.m. Minority leader. The Senate leader. Is this your confusion here?
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. I move that we resolve into an executive session to enable us a closed session, otherwise also known as executive session, to help us iron out some issues. Thank you.
I rise to second the motion that we resolve into a closed session to discuss very important issue with regards to the screening. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do resolve into a closed session to iron out some issues of national concern. Those who are in support of this closed session as moved say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate will now revert to a closed session. The press will leave us, and the nominee will leave us for a while we discuss.
I have two recordings here. Quickly go and remove it before they bring it from here.
Welcome back from the live telecast. We'll now continue with our regular programs. Stay tuned. Welcome back from the live telecast.
Where it happens and when it happens, staying on top of every breaking story, minute by minute, right at the hour where the city gets busy and just before it sleeps. We're live from every angle with objective insight and analysis. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
And mortgage banks involved. The corporation is calling on depositors affected by the liquidation to provide alternate bank accounts in commercial banks for their payments, while for those without an alternate bank account yet to be verified should visit the nearest NDIC office with proof of account ownership and verifiable means of identification. The aviation space, where the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau has announced that the country's civil aviation sector is scheduled to undergo a comprehensive safety audit by the International Civil Aviation Organization at the end of August 2023. Director General of the NSIB, Mr. Akin Olateru, reveals this at the closing ceremony of the peer review exercise of Banjul Record Group Accident Investigation Agency in Abuja. Mr. Olateru says the upcoming ICAO audit will provide valuable insights into safety status of Nigeria's aviation sector and identify areas that require improvement to promote safetier skies. Niger's